What if the most radical act of rebellion was compassion? What if the best gift you could give another woman wasn't your agreement, but your willingness to see her humanity, to stand beside her, even when you stand on different ground? In this week's episode of Reproductive Rebel, I sit down with Kirsten Karchmer, the founder of I Stand With Her, to talk about rebuilding the bridges between women in a world that keeps pulling us apart. We explore how empathy becomes activism, how to listen can heal the divide, and how the future of women's health depends on our ability to stand together, heart to heart, not side to side. Because when women rise together, the world remembers what it means to heal. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so honored to once again be joined by Kirsten Karchmer. Thank you for coming back to the show.
It's my pleasure. We had such a good conversation the first time that we thought, well, we have another conversation we need to have. And so we're doing a follow-up together. And I'm so delighted to do so.
Yes, absolutely. So I have to tell everybody, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the first episode, but I am a huge fan of Kirsten and her work. She is a brilliant East Asian medicine practitioner. And I was so honored that she was interested in having a conversation on my show. But for those who did not catch our November 18th episode, if you could introduce who you are and what you do.
So happy to. Thanks again for having me back, by the way. So I'm Kirsten Karchmer, and I was one of the first reproductive acupuncturists in North America. I had the honor of getting to work with over 10,000 infertile couples in my clinical career of over 25 years. And then in 2016, I read a study that less than 3% of couples could afford fertility treatments. And I honestly cried because I was like, I'm such a jerk, because previously I was so proud of I helped 10,000 women. That's really something to be proud of. But then I was like, but that means 97% of the people who wanted to have families didn't have access to resources like me or IVF or whatever. And so I started working to build a digital twin of myself, so that basically imagine if Beyonce came to your house and just took care of you and got everything ready for you to get pregnant. That's what the Conceivable app is. But we're not talking about that today. You can go back and listen to the November 18th episode if you want to hear about that. Today, we're talking about something along the same lines, but not about business, about beingness.
Ooh, I like that, about beingness. In today's world, that is such a loaded statement in so many ways. We are living in a more connected than ever, more divided than ever world. And some of that is fueled by technology. Some of it is fueled by the political climate. We have just really gotten ourselves into a tough place when it comes to our ability to interact as humans.
Mm-hmm. We've forgotten that we're all the same.
Yes.
We think that we're different. We think that what we see with our eyes is just a bunch of difference, about different color, different jobs, about different ethnicities, about different religions. And we see difference everywhere. And we forget that actually we're just energy. We're exactly the same. And this is true. It doesn't even matter if you care at all about anything alternative. If you walk into a room and somebody's in a really bad mood, it gets on you. Mm-hmm. How does that happen? Because even I was at a cool talk last week. I was at this biohacking conference with Dave Asprey, and they had this voice coach. And I did not think I was going to be interested in this. And what he started off saying, he's like, why is voice training so important? And he was like, because even when we speak, what comes out of our mouth is not just words, it's sound waves. And those sound waves are like waves in the ocean, and they fill up the whole room. And so not only what you're saying, but the tone that you're saying actually controls how it impacts your listener. And that's because it's energetic, right? I mean, that's why I just use that example, because I think it's such a good reminder that like we're connected by the same energy and we're made of the exact same things, but we're very divided right now. And I think that's a real problem.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that in our screening call, we talked about lots of cool things, both practitioner to practitioner, but also about like the world that we're living in today. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this second episode with Kirsten, because she was talking about this really powerful initiative that she feels very passionate about. And I think it's always been important as women. I think it is even more critically important in today's world.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it just came to me that I've been following the news, and wherever your politics is fine. But the problem is that historically women have stood together, not perfectly. I mean, there's no perfect, but pretty effectively, women have realized like we have to stick together. But now there is this enormous political rift that instead of having 52% of the population working on behalf of women and women's rights and women's access to power and healthcare, now it's truncated. Mm-hmm. And you have actually half of the women, are on the right and half of the women are on the left, and they do not connect. And so now we have 25% each advocating for what they think is important. And I think it's really, really dangerous. Our rights to access to care are being eviscerated. The NIH is no longer funding research for women's health, including also Hispanics, African Americans, people of color, LGBTQ. But the reality is that if we don't find a way to come together as women to decide and remember that we are the future of the species. Like, just let that in for a second. We are the future of the species. It's not means that the only reason that we're here is to procreate and be the baby makers. It is an honor. It is mean that we are so fucking robust that we're the ones who can make the humans, right? We are the ones who can ensure that the offsprings make it. Neither of those are necessarily easy to do. But when we're divided, we're not protecting each other, and we're not protecting those rights that protect the future of the species, and as shepherds of our offsprings, protecting our children as well. And so what I keep exploring with myself, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this also, is like, in such a divisive time, how do we bring women together? How do we bring them together beyond politics, beyond race, beyond immigration status, to say, I don't like what you think, and I don't like what you think, and I don't like whatever it is you don't like, but you're a woman and you're also the future of the species, and I stand with you no matter what. How do we do that? How do we create that mindset that no matter what happens, you're like, well, I don't know, that's another woman or person with period, right? For those who are transgendered or non-binary, how do we stand together as a unified force to make the changes that we think are necessary to protect us and our children?
And I think the common thread is the children. Like, I really think, and for those who've chosen not to have babies that may have just like had their brain turn off by saying that, I mean, children are a form of creativity. They are a birthing into the world. Now, your child could be your practice. Your child could be an actual living, breathing human being. It doesn't matter. It's a creative energy that we all share that births a new reality into the world.
That. So poetic.
Thank you.
No, it's true, though. It's beautiful.
It is. It's really true. And I feel like there's so much divisive thinking around, well, I do believe there should be a choice specifically around the carrying of humans. I still feel like children are the common thread, because deep down at the end of the day, and again, children could be a creative project that, expand your thinking around that terminology. But at the end of the day, we're all nurturing something into being. And we all are using our creative energy to birth what does become the future and the next generation into the world. Our energy is that of creation, not destruction. So we are working against our fundamental fucking programming when we go after each other, the way that we're seeing in the meta narrative today.
Well, and I think it's politically strategic too, because, right, if you have women all standing together, you have something very risky and dangerous because we're powerful. We're really powerful. But when you divide them, right, you start to truncate the resources. You start to divide the power that women have when they're unified.
You were saying that there's something really powerful when women come together.
Yeah. I mean, just the resources. I think that by nature, men are a little bit more myopic and they're more focused on a single thing. Whereas women, because of our role in the world, like we're uniquely qualified, one, for a lot of empathy and intuition and understanding, but also multitasking, right? We're really, really good at looking at the whole picture and being able to determine like, okay, what's the triage? What's the most important? What's not important? And how do we take action to get it done as quickly and efficiently as possible?
It's like that saying, if you give a woman a house, she makes it a home. You give her a seed, she creates a baby. Like there's like a whole like poem. And I wish I could eloquently remember it all off the top of my head. But the idea is that if you give her something to work with, this creative energy is just innately part of who she is. And when you historically look at like matriarchal culture, it isn't a reversal of women being in power and men being the second-class citizen. It is more of an equal partnership where women can own land, pass along those rights in their own family lines and things like that, because matriarchal cultures were not about control. They were about co-creation. And that's the energy of women in groups is co-creation, which is why we're so powerful when we're on the same page.
Right. We make excellent teammates.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have a real collaborative nature. And, I think that the problem is that we think that a few things keep us completely separate. I'm not a Republican, so I don't really understand their point of view, to be honest. But just to be respectful of that, what I do know is that I think politically we're being divided by some concepts, like things are related to politics around healthcare, around women's right to access to abortion and those kinds of things. And I think that like what's happening is we think that we're more divided than we actually have to be, when the truth is we have more in common than we have that's different. But we have to figure out, how do we find those things? How do we find those commonalities? And even I was at a party recently and there was a woman who's like MAGA, like hardcore MAGA. And I was trying to talk to her because I was like, well, the only way to do this is to actually really try to listen, not argue, not have a debate, but literally try to listen. And, in her opinion, she was like, I just can't support the killing of any future baby, And what I could tell is that she was scared. She wasn't full of hate, right? She was scared. For her, that is really bad, right? To have, an abortion or something. And I asked her, I said, but what if that means that the mother loses her life? How do we figure that out? And she's like, well, we just can't know for sure. But in my heart, I think that the child is more important than the mother.
Wow.
And I was like, my impulse was to just like start arguing, you know what I mean? But,
right.
And this is what I encourage everyone to do, because I think this is the way that we start to do it, is to start really becoming curious. Because it's so easy, your political opponents think is so different. It's so fundamentally different than you think. Like for me, I live in Texas and everybody has guns here. All right, so we're not getting handguns and rifles out of people's hands. But for me, I'm like, I just can't even understand an argument in which somebody would need an assault rifle. Right? I can't even come up with a single argument. But I met somebody doing the same practice. It was a man who was ex-sniper in the military. And he was like, I'm pretty much a liberal except for gun control. And I was like, well, I wish nobody had guns. Things that shoot one bullet, I could probably compromise on. But like a semi-automatic, I was like, it would just end school shootings if we really got serious about getting rid of semi-automatics. And he said, I know what the military is carrying. And I don't trust the military anymore. And I want to be equally as armed as they are. And again, without that conversation, I was like, okay, actually, I can get that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but this is how we start to figure out how do we navigate this in a way that we come together as Americans, that we try and literally make America great again, not some kind of conjecture.
I agree, because really fundamentally deep down, we have the same hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
We want to feel safe. We need to have our basic needs met. This is part of why when we've had government shutdowns and we're looking at issues paying bills and SNAP benefits and all of these kinds of things, that, we're looking at going after people's basic needs, which is going to rile them up even more because it becomes a survival thing.
Yes. And that's where people start doing crazy things when they're trying to survive, right? Dangerous, violent.
Exactly. And so, I remember as a much younger person that people may not have agreed with one another, but people were able to have civil debates.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to love debating in school. Oh, I was a nasty devil's advocate. It did not matter whether I agreed with, the opposing side or whatever, but I was really good at pushing people to get them to think from an opposing viewpoint, regardless of what my viewpoint was. And my parents always used to joke that I should be a politician or some sort of a diplomatic person. And I'm like, I don't have any desire to play the politics game, though.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to encourage, and here we are several years later, Reproductive Rebel exists. I want to encourage people to think beyond the scope of what is in front of them, because we are filtering what we understand through our lived experience. And for some people, that's a very narrow lens, and not for any fault of their own, simply because of their life story, what has brought them to where they are. They have a far more narrow scope of the world. And so they are just running what they understand through the filter of what they have in their environment around them. And this is why certain areas are a little more diverse in their thinking and other areas are not. And it's no one's fault. What it is, like listening and speaking in proportion. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. If we spent twice as much time actually listening to what people are saying, you're going to see that a lot of what fires people up comes down to politics or basic needs. And when I say politics, I'm actually putting religion in that category, because religion is a political narrative in and of itself. If you look back at history and you look anything to do with the birth of Christianity, the Crusades, anything of that nature, it was political.
Mm-hmm.
The burning times were political. They were done under the banner of religion, but it was political.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was to move the narrative in the direction of the authority or the political party or the governing body of that time period. So if we look back at history, a lot of politics has moved needles in a bunch of directions that really honestly have been at the detriment of future generations.
100%.
And we are sitting at the brink of being able to change that lived experience. Like my husband has said a few times, people are going to look back at this time in history and go, what the hell were they thinking? And I say the same thing. We really have gone very far afield and have stopped listening twice as much as speaking. And I think keyboard trolls have gotten significantly worse because you're not sitting across from the person. And just like you were talking about frequency and how words literally impart certain kinds of actions on people's bodies. I work in frequency medicine. So yes, there's a lot of truth to that. The entire field of cymatics is the study of frequency and how it affects the movement of particles, people, sand moves into different shapes with different frequencies. It's wicked cool. But there was a piece that was done saying hateful words into water and saying loving words into water and freezing it. And then they took pictures of the structure of water, and the color changed, the structure changed. It looked all chaotic in the ones where they said hateful things to the water, and it was more clear blue, but you saw sacred geometry in the water that loving things was said to.
Wow.
So, like, when I explain to people, and, I'll use what we do for work as an example, like, Asian medicine practitioners see themselves more as gardeners, helping the roots of the plant so the plant flourishes. You are not going to walk up to a plant that is wilted over and shit talk the plant. You're just not.
Like, you piece of garbage.
Right? You're going to go.
You deserve to die.
And we laugh, and it sounds insane to say out loud, but you're going to walk up to him and be like, hey, buddy, like, what is it that you need? Do you need water? Do you need sunlight? See the kindness in my voice? Like, it's a loving, caretaking kind of energy that you hear in the words that I'm saying. And so, when we're in this very divisive place, a lot of times we're even losing the timbre of the words that are being used because they're being spit across a keyboard. Yeah. And if you were in front of a person, you very likely would not say that out of general common courtesy. Although since 2020, even that has shifted.
Yeah. It is really interesting how I think part of it is that we have political leaders right now that are straight up bullies. Whatever your politics are, you can't have the president and the president's team bullying people and expect that not to have a trickle-down effect to society, right? Then it's basically saying it's okay to be a real jerk. It's okay to call people names. It's okay to humiliate people. It's okay to disparage people publicly. I always think about Gandhi's saying of like, be the change that you want to be. And on both sides, all of us, including me, I'm not saying that I have this, but all of us are so discombobulated right now that we are not being the change we want to see. We are just fighting. We're mad, we're scared, we're grabbing for control. And in no way are we embodying both mind and body. Like, what is the society that I want to live in? I want to live in a society where people love me, they care for me when I'm sick, they help me. I help them when they're sick, right? That it's a community, that there's freedom of expression, that there's freedom of religion. Because as a person who is really interested in, learning, like the more diverse people that you get to be around, the more interesting person you are.
Yes.
Right? Because you start, it's like a lot of people in certain parts of the United States have never left their state. We live in a huge country. It's not like Europe. Like my friend, she lives in Switzerland and, she'll go to France for dinner. Right. It's just not the same thing. Right. We have to like drive out of Texas. We got to get 17 hours to get out of the state. Yes. 17 hours in either direction to get out of the state, east or west. And so you have a lot of people who've never even left their state, who've never been in an airplane before. And so what happens is, like you were saying earlier, their view of everything is so narrow that they haven't ever been around a person who has a different skin color or a different religion, or they've never been to a different kind of place of worship, whether it's a temple or a mosque or whatever. Mosques are amazing places. If you haven't been there, put away all your Islamophobia and go and visit a mosque. It's another just beautiful religious place that there's a lot of spirituality and a lot of really great, kind people there. But if you don't do that, it's very easy to start spinning up a narrative, especially because other people are filling your brain with like, these people are bad and these people are dumb and these people are whatever. And then if you don't go and test it out for yourself, you just end up being a person who's just another finger pointer hater who is not being who they want to see. So my challenge is also, it's like every day, like when you're upset about what's happening on either side, what are the kind of people you want to be around? Do you know what I mean? And start being like that, more loving. I mean, I can't imagine if we asked 1,000 people like, hey, do you want to live in a society where there's more love? I mean, I can't imagine there's too many people that would say no, where people are really kind to each other. It's really hard to be like, no, fuck that. I hate kindness. It's like, all right, well, whatever it is that we want, smarter, taking care of our people better, more open-minded, then we must start practicing being that. And what you have to do is fake it for a while, because we've not been being that, and that's sort of our default. So we have to sort of artificially Keep reminding ourselves, be who you want to be. It has a profound effect because every time you're nice to somebody who's mean to you, it will change them. Even if they flip you off on the way out, like, I was somewhere the other day and somebody like snarked. Oh, I was at Chick-fil-A. Yes, I'm embarrassed that I do eat at Chick-fil-A sometimes. And I was sitting there and the young man who was working there was so friendly and loving and sweet. And we just had an 18-second conversation. I can't remember what we were talking about. And the person behind us honked. And it was literally like 18 seconds. And I was trying to be like, that makes me so mad, And I just turned out and I was like, hi, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting, and just kept waiting. And then they flipped me off. Yep. But it's okay. It will actually make you want to do it more. Mm-hmm. The more that people respond to you with anger and resentment, you're like, well, I got more work to do. I feel like for me, I tell myself I cannot complain about where I live if I'm not working every single day to be the kind of person that I want to live with.
Yes.
And I'm not the kind of person often that I want to live with, so I have work to do.
You feel the symptoms before you understand them. The restless nights, the hormonal shifts, the sense that something deeper is moving beneath the surface. These aren't random. They're messages, invitations into the next chapter of your life. This January, step into Rebel Remembered, a year-long journey where your symptoms become signals, your cycles become teachers, and every stage of life becomes a rite of passage. Each month, we explore a new archetype, a new layer of feminine wisdom, and a new way your body has been asking you to listen. Through ritual, sound, body literacy, and ancestral remembrance, you'll reconnect to the woman you're becoming, not the one you were told to be. If you are tired of pushing through, if you are craving clarity, connection, and a map for what your body is experiencing, if you are ready for a year of reclamation, then join us for Rebel Remembered. Enrollment is open now. Your body has been waiting for you to remember. It's that Buddhist concept of taking care of what's happening in the four walls of your mind, in the four walls of your home, and taking care of your side of the street. That if you're taking care of your side of the street, it does have a ripple effect. It does help other people, even if you don't see the direct fruits of that. Mm-hmm. And it's that idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the end of the day, the human experience needs the same things: love, kindness, safety, basic needs being met. We all
shelter.
Yeah, we all have the same needs and tenets in order to thrive. And we're ignoring and losing that connection with the fact that we're all humans and we all need the same things. And you can have a different viewpoint from me and still express it in a kind way. You can have a different opinion than me, and it doesn't make me evil. It just means that you and I have a difference of opinion. I mean, any married couple, they don't see eye to eye on absolutely every stinking thing, because if that's the case, then there'd be no fun in that relationship because there'd be no yin yang.
Exactly. I was told to say they'd probably never have sex if that was true.
Seriously. So you're going to encounter people who have a different opinion than you, and that is okay. That is the secret sauce, the spice of life that keeps things interesting. The thing that we have lost sight of is the fact that all of us actually need it delivered the same way. And that remembering our humanity in the time that we're delivering that message is fundamentally important. And we have totally lost sight of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that, what you were saying earlier, how like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what else we need is we need each other. Mm-hmm. We do need each other more than ever right now, but we don't have each other's back right now. And so it can feel even more lonely, because even you walk out somewhere and you don't know if you talk to somebody at the grocery store, if they're going to, be friendly with you or tell you to fuck off. Mm-hmm. And it's happening a lot, and I will say, like, my really good friend, his name is Trevor Romaine. You should check him out. He's a children's book author. He's on Facebook. And he's South African, and he was bullied really bad. He's like a shorter guy, and he got bullied for that, and he had dyslexia, and now he's like the world diplomat of children of war. He goes around the world and helps kids whose parents of any country, it's by the UN. If there's a group of kids who have a lot of parents that are deployed, he goes and like gives talks to them and helps them and supports them and everything. And so he's like massively sweet and friendly, but they live in Hawaii. And I was there recently and he said, I always drive down this road and I see this old guy and he's got an old pickup truck and he's got his like white knuckle. He just looks so serious. He goes, I always think that guy just needs a sweet hello, So every time he passes me, whether I'm walking or in my car, I'm always like, hello, mate. And he gives him a big smile and, he's a very friendly guy. And that went on for like 3 months. I see him every single day. He never acknowledged me. He probably's like, there's that crazy South African. And then one day he was somewhere, he was talking to him and she's like, oh, I got to go take my dad's truck to the shop. And he's like, oh, what kind of truck does your dad have? And she said the truck. It was like an older truck. He's like, oh, a red, whatever, old F-150. And he said, oh, does your dad always drive here to there? And she goes, yes. And she says, oh my God, you're the guy. And he goes, what? And he said, he loves that. Mm-hmm. He's old, so he's real scared when he's driving. He wants to be extra safe and not hurting anybody. But he always comes home and says, that sweet guy said hello to me again and always makes my day because almost nobody does.
Oh, wow.
And 3 months, right? My friend, it's just like no feedback, just white knuckles, right? Hi, how are you? Nothing, no feedback. But just because there was no feedback doesn't mean that it wasn't touching him. And how easy it is to just have a tiny act of kindness. And the best thing about it is you can do it for a selfish reason because it makes you feel so good, just to be authentically kind to somebody. Just help somebody, like carry somebody's groceries out. You don't have to spend any money or do anything.
Well, and like sometimes I like to find somebody that's wearing something that's like really cute or whatever. I don't know them from a hole in the wall. I'm just like, I love your dress. And they just like perk up and it makes their day. And you have no idea if that one statement might have been the kindest thing they had heard all day.
Or week.
Or month. Like there's so much negativity in the world right now. Mm-hmm. That tiny act of kindness, it really does ripple. Yes. So this goes to what we were talking about in the screening call, which is this initiative around I Stand With Her.
Yes. So, it's very simple. I'm working on a TED Talk for this called I Stand With Her. But also, I'm just encouraging people to play around with it, right? Start using the hashtag every day. I stand with her. I stand with her. Because the more that you do it and the more that you say it and the more that you do it, it becomes an affirmation. And if you say it enough, every time you pee, I stand with her. Like just make it your routines. Every time you get a sip of water, I stand with her. Because then when you get out into the world and someone tells you to fuck off and it's a female and you want to tell her back, whatever, you're like, oh, shoot. But I stand with her. And then you're going to say, have a great day. And you just practice. And you just practice and you practice and you see what happens. And you tell what we're talking about to all your friends and you ask them to do the same thing. And over time, we start standing with each other. Slowly but surely, we start seeing that we're more alike than different. And that is going to be really important for us so that we can get our power back. Hell, I think we should start our own political party because we're like, let's just figure out what we need as women to be right in this world. And how are we going to, if we're the shepherds of our offspring, that means we're basically the shepherd of all the people. Mm-hmm. And what would happen if we were in charge, right? Solely in charge. I don't know. I mean, I'm not anti-men at all. Like, I think that even a guy who works on my team, who's my operator, my chief operating officer, he's always like, I want to replace myself with a female because I think you need an all-female team. And I said, well, first of all, you're kind of girly. And second of all, teasing. And he's very kind-hearted. And I said, and second of all, like you said too, Adrienne, there's some value to not having an all-female team. That like the yin and the yang of the sexes actually bring different things. And it's just like having friends who are different races and different cultures. It brings this more richness to it. Mm-hmm. But I still think we should have our own political party.
I agree. Because I think that this would be a way that we would be able to reach across the aisle around things that are not political, but that are human.
Yes, thank you.
And that is fundamentally what we're missing, is the ability to be human.
I think that's what's missing for me right now in politics is like all of it is becoming so inhuman. Like the idea of caring for our people in this country seems to be gone, and that makes me really sad
Mhm.
Because again, like all the people who are not getting paid right now, all the people who are scared to go to their house, because even like one of my friends, she lives here legally, but she's in Chile. And I was like, do you want to go to the march with me? And she said, no. She goes,
Yeah.
I want to. She goes, I just can't afford to get picked up.
Mhm.
Like I'm legal, but I look like a Hispanic person. And that makes me really sad because I need her in the world. She's brilliant. And all people have gifts, right? And so when people are scared or they don't have food or they're not getting paid and we don't have TSA working, that's a real loss for our society. That makes me really sad.
I tell my husband I have an interracial marriage. I'm married to a Spanish man. He is Puerto Rican, which means he is a
As
US
American.
citizen. But there seems to be a lot of confusion around that. And simply because he is a Spanish speaking Latin man, I have said to him, like, just make sure you have your passport card on you, please. And he laughs at me and he goes, I am serving in an active duty capacity in the military and I'm a US citizen. And I said, I don't
Doesn't
care.
matter.
We're in a modern day witch hunt right now,
Yeah.
and it is not safe to be other in any capacity whatsoever. And it scares me that with
Yeah.
how we've seen legislation changing people's civil rights, people's, ability to have their voices heard and make decisions and all of these things that, who knows? It used to be illegal to have an interracial marriage. That would break my heart if I couldn't be married to the love of my life. Like, this is the very scary, very serious world that we're living in right now, where like we're being told who we can hang out with, how we can spend our time,
Mm-hmm.
who we can love. Like, those things are human,
Yeah.
and we're losing our humanity.
I'm always so shocked. I'm like, who the hell cares who you're in love with?
Mm-hmm. And why is
Love
it
is
their
love.
business?
For me, love is the best thing on the planet. And whoever you love, I'm so happy. If you have somebody that loves you and you love, that is the greatest gift on earth. And like, there's a lot bigger problems to solve than that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, we could wax philosophically about that forever.
Yes, I feel like you and I absolutely could. So we're using hashtags. I stand with her.
Yes. And make content about it. Like get inspired, and start practicing and make content about your experiences. Go out on the street and ask people, like, what do you think is the best way to bring women back together on both sides of the political party? And send it to me, right?
Mm,
Like it feels we don't have any control right now, right? Every day there's like a new initiative that seems scarier than the last one. What can we do? First of all, make sure that you're talking to your congressman because midterm elections are coming up and you have more power in your vote than ever before right now. Like in even Texas, you can't win because it's such a red state. Like I can call my congressman, they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's only four of you, Dems in the whole state practically. But in other states, especially where it's going to be a closer race, talk about it. But the thing that you can do for your soul, don't get lured into the hate and the
mhm.
fear and get committed to love. And if anything, it will make your life happier. During this tumultuous time, the worst thing that will happen is you'll have a better life because internally you'll be more regulated. Internally, you'll know that you are acting in the way that you're committed to being in the world. It's kind of like when you hang out with somebody. One of my friends is like, eats nothing but junk food. And whenever I hang around her, I love junk food. I mean, people are like, oh, you probably eat perfect. And I'm like, no, no, I love everything junky. And so, but when I'm around her, I don't care. She's like, let's go eat this bad thing. Let's eat a fried Snickers. Okay, okay, okay. So what we have to do is like when we act more loving, it rubs off on the people that we hang around with. And then they do it. It's like that old commercial. And they told two friends and so on and so on and so on. That's what I'm hoping starts to happen. And yeah, I think it's the thing that we can do that doesn't cost anything. That's an easy thing that will enrich our own souls. It's not goal oriented. You're not doing this to save the world. You're doing it to save your little ecosystem and to save your own soul. When everything is getting gross around you, man, it is easy to get mad, hateful, and want to just kill people. Not literally, but
Yeah.
the energy of that. And I'm suggesting that maybe as women and people with periods, menstruators, that we start to try to cultivate some of the things that we do best: compassion, empathy, love, generosity, and be it.
I love that. I was just going to ask you for a final thought, but I really feel like that sounded like the summation of taking care of your side of the street and how we can be proactive about forging a new reality as women and as the caretakers of the future of our country and beyond.
Right. Like what I feel is that people are very righteous right now on both sides. There's a lot of righteousness. Like we know the right way, we know the right way. But the problem is that no one is right. Everybody's right and everybody's wrong. And there's just degrees of what may or may not work best for our country. But there is no right, meaning correct, not right side, left side. But it's very easy to get sucked into righteousness. And the number one thing to divide people is being righteous. I'll tell you a quick story before we break up. Hang up. So you were saying you love to debate. My son was a debater in junior high and in high school. Then he was a policy debater in college. Now he's in law school. So this kid's been debating since he was, born. And he's incredibly righteous. He's extremely smart, but also very righteous. And he came home from a debate one time in high school and he's like, "Oh my God, Mom, I don't know. I can't do debate anymore." I said, "What? What's going on?" He is, "The people on my team are so fucking righteous." And I was like, "Oh man, how do you handle that?" And he's like, "I see where this is going." And I was like, "Oh yeah, where do you think this is going?" And he goes, "I think that you think that I'm righteous." And I was like, "Well, sometimes you can be, pretty righteous." And he goes, "There's a big difference between me and them." And I said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And he goes, "Mama, they're righteous. I'm just right." And that's what it looks like in politics.
Yes.
That's what each of the other sides are saying, like, "Oh, the Dems are so righteous about whatever we're righteous about, but we're right." And the Democrats are saying the Republicans, they're so righteous about what they're righteous about, but we're right. And it won't get us anywhere.
No, and I live in Maine, so we have a history of having representation that tends to reach across the aisle in a more bipartisan way. And that's something that I've always been really proud of, is that their voting record isn't perfect or anything, but I definitely think that they lead more of the conversations in terms of, I hear your viewpoint, I hear your viewpoint, here's an option in the middle. Or, can we propose something that lives in the middle?
Yeah.
It's just like friendships. You're not going to be for everybody, but the people who are your people will find you. It's a frequency thing, right?
Yeah.
So the same is true in politics and negotiations and debates and any of these kinds of things where you have alternate viewpoints to your own that are trying to make an argument, is that everybody loses when it starts to go in a negative direction.
Yeah.
Again, listen twice as hard as you speak and say, "Okay, I don't agree with all of this. However, I hear what you're saying. Can we find a middle ground where both of our viewpoints are represented here?" And I know that sounds a little insane because some of the things that we're talking about are very polarizing topics, but I think at the end of the day, if we really slowed it down and thought about it, that yes, there could be a middle ground somewhere on all of these hard topics that currently have people in the extreme left and the extreme right. And, we've seen it with the last few presidential elections. We have one party represented, and there's enough dissent around what it is that happens in that presidency. And then we swing hard in the opposite direction. And that pendulum has gotten swinging harder and harder and harder over the last, I would say, probably 6 presidential elections. So 24 years.
Yeah.
Over half my life. I do not remember the pendulum swinging as severely before.
It's reactionary,
Yes. And, if we can get to a place where we start looking at and thinking about and talking like humans and the needs of humans at large, rather than along certain lines of thought, but more along the lines of, what do humans need in order to thrive? Because if you have a thriving human, they're going to work harder for you. They're going to be sick less often. They're going to bring more joy into the workplace. They're going to be a more productive person.
Yes.
Period. So that serves business. That serves health and lifestyle, and the fact that we spend a disgusting amount of our gross domestic product on acute care rather than preventative care. There's a whole business matrix, if you want to look at it from a business perspective, that will benefit from healthy, happy humans.
Yeah.
So can we
That's the thing that's so confusing. It's like, oh, well, if we just take care of people's bodies a little bit more efficiently and teach them how to care for their bodies. And I have a friend who just started an insurance company that I'm pretty excited about, that basically you pay, like, how healthy you are determines your rate.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have like high blood sugar, you're going to pay more. If you smoke, you pay more. You drink alcohol, you're going to pay more. But if you track that you meditate every day, you lower your risk. And because those people are going to, it doesn't mean that guarantees you're not going to get anything, but they are going to have significantly lower risk factors for those really expensive acute care.
Right. Because all of your lifestyle practice affects the expression of your blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's brilliant and it's a business model. So like we're talking about, if we focus on the human experience, everybody wins.
Yeah.
And it can even be profitable for those who are making an argument that it has to do with capitalist living and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we could be a capitalist society and it still doesn't have to be as detrimental to people's health, mental and physical. We have an epidemic happening in this country right now on the physical and mental health side. And it all boils down to the fact that we treat other people like they're not human anymore.
Yeah.
So
maybe that's what we should do. We should start the human party.
Oh, I like that.
We just want to like have a human experience, that care for the humans.
I was going to say, you start that party, sister. I will sign whatever needs to be signed, because that's really the middle ground. Like I've told people for years, like I see myself far more as a moderate. Maybe it's because I can see some element of both sides of a lot of arguments, because it has to do with the human experience.
Yeah. Well, it's complicated because our country is so enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And across our country, we have wide ranges of socioeconomics, levels of education, climate. There's so much diversity across the whole country. It's hard to legislate to take care of and protect everyone, Yeah. Certainly oligarchs are not someone that I care about protecting.
Yes, but again, it's about what can we find for a middle ground?
Yeah.
Right? And regardless of socioeconomics, we all have the same basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're losing sight in the current rhetoric, is that we're all humans that have the same needs in order to thrive.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Like, I think this is one of the more political conversations, and I've always hoped for some of these on this show. So I really, really appreciate you going the distance with me in this conversation, because these are the kinds of conversations we need to be having more access to. And again, listening with two ears.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the part where we're really struggling right now, and doing the same things over and over and expecting a different outcome is literally the definition of insanity.
Right.
Like, something has to give in order for things to change. Yeah. We cannot sustain this trajectory. We are becoming scorched earth. And if we want to remain the kind of country that can provide support to people who are in need, which is something we have always collectively valued as a country, we have to be able to have hard conversations where we're willing to figure out compromise.
Yeah, I love it.
And
I think we should end it there.
And it starts with, I stand with her. So if people are looking to connect with you, how can they reach you?
The easiest thing is to just go to our website, conceivable.com. You can email me at Kirsten@Conceivable, but you can find it at Conceivable. You'll notice that our app is a little bit pushed to the back right now. We're rebuilding the whole app to try to improve the user experience. You can still use it. You can download it from the App Store under Conceivable with Kai, but you'll notice that there's a lot more forward is just like our personalized supplements. As we're rebuilding this, we're just going to focus on that. So if you're taking supplements for anything related to your period, head over to Conceivable or fertility. You can take a quiz and you can get a personalized pack done for about $80. 8 different supplements, the right dose, exactly what you need, all pre-packed for you. So no plastic, just pop it in your mouth. To me, it's like the deal of the century. When we had our individual bottles, it would cost like $500 or $600 for the equivalent of that. And we ended up finding a new manufacturer because everything that I need comes to me, it seems like. That's my new mantra. And I'm passing that on to you. So, don't buy garbage supplements. If you want to save money, go over to Conceivable.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me for another episode and sharing your time and your expertise with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much again for having me. It was a great conversation. I really, really enjoyed it.
And until next time, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist, Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.